Hi everybody, it's Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. Today I have Jan from the UK calling in to share her case study with us. Jan has been a Rocksteady member who I've touched base with from time to time, but I'm really excited to hear your journey. Jan, I've even forgotten what your diagnosis was. What brought you to Rocksteady?
About February 2020 it was, I remember now. I had to have a look in my diary actually because it's that long ago. It feels that long ago.
Hmm.
And I literally woke up one morning with full-blown tinnitus.
Yep. So
And
this is for the tinnitus listeners.
yeah, I had a very slight amount of vertigo, but
Yeah.
that was not the issue. The tinnitus was the issue for me.
So we're going to focus today on how Jan used the Rocksteady program and the relationship she had with the Rocksteady community and how that was part of her healing. Just off recording, Jan was saying she can barely remember the dark places, but her and I both know what it's like to feel very stuck, very dark. Um, and we also know what it's like to build the new normal and to come to our light, to our strength, to our power and heal. So, Jan, do you want to give a really short version of an example of your darkest moment and now an example of your new normal?
Yeah, sure. So I had to sort of think back actually, but I do remember there was a couple of sort of dark moments where I was on the floor, and I remember it was all the COVID cases and everything else, and no one could come around to your house. But I rang a friend and I was physically on the floor, and she literally picked me up, put me back to bed. And from that moment, that was, I think, my lowest point, definitely.
Mm,
And to where I am now
mm,
is everything that comes my way. I let it come through, I let it flow, and I just think to myself, well, that's amazing, amazing feeling and an amazing emotion, but how do I really want to feel?
mm,
And where's my feelings now? What do I really want to feel? And I
mhm,
can feel
mhm.
my neurons going bing, 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 bing.
I love that description because for me, health or healing or well-being is having emotional fluidity, which means no
Yeah.
one emotion gets stuck, including happiness, joy, ecstasy, orgasm. We're not just stuck there experiencing that only. We're able to
Mm.
experience the full spectrum with flow, which means it comes and goes fluidly without resistance. And I think
Yeah.
you really hit the nail on the head. For me, there's a sense of awe. It's like, oh, that's an interesting feeling, this
Mm.
grief or this separation or this distraction or this repulsion, but it comes and goes so quickly because we're holding a distance to it and we're letting the
Mm.
body explore it, experience it. And after
Mm.
we feel it, honor it, acknowledge it, all of these processes and tools are in the Rocksteady program. After
Mm.
that, we can then harness our clarity of, well, what's real for me in this moment and where do I really want to take myself? Where do I want to direct my intention, my attention, and my neural growth so I can then
Mm.
cultivate more of the empowered version of this moment for myself. And I think you just
Mm.
described that really nicely. So, if we're
Mm.
talking to people out there who might be suffering with chronic symptoms, chances are
Yeah.
that they're not connected so much to the control of their nervous system and emotions. What pieces in the neuroplasticity puzzle did you find in the Rocksteady program or community? How did you get from A to B? How did you get from pain to pleasure?
Right. So for me, I had to learn patience. That was a massive one for me. And I just wanted it now. I
Mm,
wanted it gone.
mm,
And that obviously was the key.
mm,
Because what I needed to do was embrace the whole package and realize it's me. That sound was me, is me. That's my brain moving and my body inside moving. And even if I get a slight sound in my ear, I got one last week.
mm.
And I sort of looked around and thought, oh, what's that noise? And it was my right ear, but I thought, okay, my brain's doing something. My body internal noises are going tickety tock, you know.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it went, and I just smiled and thought, oh, that was nice to see you again. And on
Mm,
I went. So the Rock Steady program, it was so beautifully done. So it's because it's I think I got it every 2 weeks, if I remember rightly, the email through for my next module. But it was just such a lovely, slow process that I needed to learn. And even now, I still think, oh, patience, Jan, you know. So I'm always in a hurry, although I have slowed down an awful lot. But I think so I couldn't have done it without the Rocksteady program. As much as I loved the book that came out afterwards, the program is still the key for me. It was anyway. And even now, if I'm having a moment and I think, oh, I just feel that I need to listen to Joey and maybe what she's saying, I go back and listen to a live call, which is all on the program. And there it was. I just get, you always, for some reason, it always seems to find something that I need to hear. And then I revert back to, yeah, that's it.
It kind of makes me sound mystical or clairvoyant or something. I'm not. It's really just that we have shared humanity. And
yes,
it really is mind-blowing how we have these shared experiences and shared processes and shared patterns. And the Rocksteady process, I think, if I distill it down, it's changing a mindset, it's changing a way of life, it's changing a philosophical paradigm of how we view ourselves and how we participate in the world. And so reading a book is not enough to get us there. And having a community of people we can bounce ideas with and share our journey with and get stuck together with really helps us stay on the path, so that we're not dipping in and out and dabbling in multiple modalities and getting confused along the way. I think staying the path and keeping the conversation steady helps the neural messages get that message over and over again in so many different ways. And of course, there's the physical exercises, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. So we're looking at this from the whole person. I'm curious, Jan, how did, if you were just to remember all the way back to 2020 and your relationship to the program, it's pretty normal in the beginning for people to be quite kind of trigger happy about it and try and do everything and do it all quickly and sort of go. And then the second time round they face the modules, they kind of take a breath, they slow down and they go a lot deeper, and they probably go a bit more authentically into their body as opposed to up here and doing. Do you want to share a little bit of your journey, if you relate to that, and how you may have approached the modules differently over time?
Yeah, so the first one, I went gung-ho, 100%. Yeah. And again, I wanted results. Boom, boom, there and then. And then I did the program 3 times. So the second time I went that much deeper, and the connection each time, the penny dropped. Something just dropped that little bit more. And the third time I went so deep that I just became this amazing human being that was connected to everything that I touched, breathed, ate, met, everything. There was an absolute connection, I realized, with the whole of humanity. And that was what I was so disconnected with when I first got tinnitus. I was completely disconnected from my own body. And now I realize that having some isolation to myself is the most amazing thing, because I connect with myself. And that's my time for me to see what my own body's doing. The Rocksteady, it really connected me to being me authentically.
It's so interesting hearing you say that. I did a recent case study, I want to say maybe yesterday or last week, very, very recently anyway. And she said a very similar thing. I learned to accept all of me, the whole package. And another person's described it as attunement to our wholeness. So there's a real theme and a real pattern coming through. And I tell you now, this was not my intention when I built the program. It has blown my mind. Well, it's grown with you. So the way I first designed it, it's kind of, as people have engaged with the program and we've had all these rich conversations in our replays and the group calls, I've been feeding back a little bit. And it's this interesting, I won't call it beast, but this it's a living dynamic community. And we're multiracial, from all over the world. It's really beautiful, and we still have these shared questions, shared humanity, shared wholeness, shared healing. And I almost sense a vulnerability in your eyes and your voice as you were sharing the disconnection. And it's my experience is that as I've learned to truly connect in an authentic and deeper way, which has been such a lifelong journey for me, there is a little bit of sadness of like, oh my God, what have I missed all these years when I just haven't had the capacity to connect, and I've been disconnected as a way of coping and survival and fear and trauma patterns. And then, of course, it's that spectrum of being, of going, well, actually, disconnection is a way of life. It's not a terrible way of life. And then I think the contrast of connecting probably helps me appreciate it more. Maybe if I'd always had that from day dot, without that understanding of loneliness and isolation and withdrawal and criticism and urgency to always do everything because I'm just never quite feeling like I'm on top of anything and feeling really disconnected to other people, to nature, to cycles. Maybe having the contrast of disconnection is part of the medicine, and it allows me to more deeply appreciate connecting and to pause and to breathe it in a little longer and to for want of a better word, study it. Do you relate to that? And can you talk a little bit about how Rocksteady put those dots together and helped you reconnect with yourself and the world?
Yeah, it's oh, I had all sorts of thoughts going through my head then, Joey, as you was talking. I've gone completely blank now. I had a moment last week, and I thought almost identical to what you've just said. Well, I've got to a certain age and I thought, wow, I'm so connected now because of Rocksteady. Why could I not have done this 30 years ago? But I grab, because of the Rocksteady, but I grab every single moment that I can. I seriously live now, this moment now. We have this conversation we're having. I'm enjoying the feelings that it's giving me. I'm not thinking, oh, I've got to go and do my shopping afterwards. I literally, I'm so neurologically, I feel like I'm neurologically connected with my brain and my stomach, with the microbiome. I've studied all that because of Rocksteady now, that the connection is just so tuned that I'm living now. And I don't feel that I've missed out, perhaps, because this is so wonderful.
Yeah. And you've had
this is all I have. But that's the Rocksteady. If I hadn't have done the Rocksteady program, I'm sure I wouldn't be in this wonderful place right now within my body.
And arguably, if you'd never got the tinnitus.
Oh, 100%. I'm actually quite thankful for the tinnitus.
Yeah.
In a way, because I wouldn't have been connected so beautifully.
You know what I love about this delicious description of presence? Because it's like right here, right now.
Yeah.
Is it's possible for you or me or anyone right now to be really worried about what people think, or to fear judgment, or to feel small and be like, who's going to listen and what will they say? And it's present, but it's present from a place of fear and critic and insecurity and possibly pushing through the fear. There's a bravery there that person's showing up. And I've certainly been that person, but I just love how your description of presence is like, it's yummy. I'm enjoying this. And there's no fear there.
Fear was patience and fear. Fear for me, the Rocksteady program obliterated fear for me. I get it occasionally, and I'm glad it's there, because otherwise I wouldn't revert back to being beautifully connected. But fear is funny enough, because I connected with some lovely ladies from the Rocksteady program, and that's part of the community. And I went to visit one of them in Cornwall, and I never thought in a million years I could do another 4.5 hour journey in a car, but I did, and it was amazing. And we met up and we talk about fear a lot. And we remind each other. It's just a very gentle, like, nudge, a little reminder. Fear, don't let fear take your joy. Come on. And fear was a big one for me. Thinking back, But now fear, I just look at it and I think, okay, that's all right. Why are you here? Let's connect. And it doesn't last long. Not now. I'm so much I want to say I'm in control.
Well, you're in control of what you can control, and you've possibly
Yes.
learnt to surrender what you truly can't
Yeah.
control. And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
pretty much as good as it gets. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
awake, it's alive, it's living. We're not
Yeah. Yeah.
surviving
Yeah.
and dying. And
Yeah.
what Jan was describing there, for those of you who are new to this program or this community and haven't yet accessed the program, some of those skills she's talking about are of meeting fear, talking with fear, processing fear, breathing through fear, identifying it in the body and moving it. That's all in the Rocksteady program and process. And this is part of our emotional and I would say even spiritual growth. Well, it's all of it, because if we think about it, mental fear is held in our physical body through tension and whatnot, and can show up in all sorts of aches and pains. Mentally, it's in the body usually as the dialogue. That it might be persistent worries or doubts, the fear dialogue, mentally speaking. Emotionally, fear is linked to all sorts of difficult emotions, from anger to jealousy to disgust, repulsion, isolation, disappointment, depression, anxiety. So there's fear emotionally showing up in some pretty big ways. And spiritually, I think fear really challenges us to believe in ourselves, to take a different perspective, to look at our life force, our love, our beliefs. And that could certainly include religious things for some people. But for myself, I think it's trusting where I am in my truth and being able to directly meet and accept reality as it is a spiritual component of presence in action, and not outsourcing, I'm afraid, fix me. So
That's been a big one for me.
the
Yeah.
externalizing, take that drug,
Yeah.
take that pill, go to that guru, doctor or spiritual activist, whatever. Nothing wrong with asking for support, mind you. And Rocksteady is all about having a supportive, non-judgmental community, people who we can go to. There's a difference between asking for support and demanding it or needing it, and genuinely feeling like you can't accept no as an answer, because you know what? The people around us have stuff on too, and sometimes they're not there and they can't be there for us, and that's okay. So
Yeah.
having our big adult socks on and knowing how to ask for support gracefully without diving into the fear and the damsel in distress. There's a spiritual piece there. Do you want to speak a little bit about learning to trust yourself, and whatever your
Yeah.
relationship to spirituality is, feel free to share as
Yeah.
well.
That was another big one. I had to trust my body. And oh boy, do I trust my body now. Oh, my body's amazing. So if the anxiety for me actually formed into, if I got a headache, oh my goodness, I had a tumor. If I had, it escalated completely.
It's quite common. People listening to this
Yeah.
will relate to that.
Yeah. So, but now I know my body is there for me. I know that my body can fix me for the majority of times. I know we need the medical profession for diagnosis and just for clarity and to know what's going on. But I also know that my body knows what's going on, and I know what's going on, and I listen to it. So I don't over what am I trying to say? If fear comes in and I get the headache, I now ask the headache, what is wrong? I don't dive for the pill, to get rid of it. It's there to tell me something. And I did lots of walking yesterday, and I did a bit of exercise this morning, and I felt my hip flexor go like this, and I thought, okay, let's just reel back. Okay, let's be kind now to my body. Yeah. And I've got a nice little heat pad on there. But I might have dived for a pill before. Yeah. Whereas now, no, I listen to my body. I let my body, and again, the relationship with my body now is we are in sync. I'm listening to it. It tells me so much information. And there's nothing really I can't fix.
Or support. I think support's an all-inclusive verb or word. Sometimes I think looking at things like we're broken or need to fix is part of that mainstream dialogue that we're subtly moving away from. Because if we think about these sensations and headaches or hip aches or back aches, as text messages from the body, and that the body's telling us something. It's not wrong at all. It's actually perfectly right. The body's giving me that healthy signal. Hey, Joey, your baby's too heavy now. Stop picking it up that way. It's, that's not great for your lower back or whatever. So that message is not necessarily saying, hey, you're wrong and your back's wrong. The message is saying maybe try different ways to pick up your heavy toddler in order for self-preservation. Mechanically you're starting to get stressed now. It's not a little 3 kilo, 4 kilo baby anymore. But what I love about what you're saying, and I would love you to share more on, is I think a really common part of the Rocksteady community when we start and join is powerlessness. We feel helpless, hopeless, and powerless, which is really common in trauma patterns. We feel like we've tried everything, we're dead-ended, and there's nothing more we can do, and it is really dark. Powerlessness is such an awful feeling. And what I'm hearing from you is actually now you're like, well, I'm not powerless. I have power. I have choice. I can support. I can take action. I'm feeling empowered to listen to my body and lovingly respond. How did you get there? I mean, that doesn't happen overnight. To go from the powerlessness to the loving, kind capacity and availability to listen and respond.
That's the Rocksteady program that did that for me. 100%. So, but it happened so gradually and with such finesse, actually. This didn't really happen overnight. It was a real lovely gradual process where I could actually feel I took back the power, because I stopped asking the doctors to fix me. I stopped asking the physio to fix this and fix that. And I realized that I had that in me, but I just didn't have the confidence, and I didn't have, it was confidence. It had to be. And the trust. I didn't have the trust. Yeah. And again, that's what I got. I gained the trust, but trust comes slowly.
And our nervous system needs to be able to handle it. And I think that's why neural integration takes that slow and steady time approach for most people. It can happen really quickly for some. It's a little bit like the opposite of a trauma. Some people can have a very quick kind of ecstatic effect where the neural system integrates things very rapidly. But for most of us, it's a slow and steady neural integration of learning to build new neural pathways little by little, from scratch, piece by piece. And my felt sense and my experience is it's not one modality. It's not cognitive behavior therapy. It's not yoga. It's not bedside exercises. It's not physiotherapy or tinnitus retraining or self-compassion. It's not one modality or one thing. And often people listening will be like, well, how did you get here? What did you do? Give me the answers. If it worked for you, I want to try it. Was it a vitamin? Was it a diet?
No.
And I think the Rocksteady process really helps us debunk that yearning for the quick fix or the certainty. And we start to realize, okay, well, if I'm feeling this, I might need to try that tool. And if I'm feeling this, I might try that one. And we have this plethora, this toolbox of multimodality. So we might have bits and pieces of cognitive behavioral style observing thoughts, or we might dabble in self-compassion when that's needed, and we might try some physical strong standing and more physical neuroplasticity exercises in posture when that's called upon. And so we understand how we can nurture our nervous system, nurture our mind, connect to our soul, maybe do vision boarding or tapping. And it's that idea that it's not one thing. It's actually a whole new way of life with a whole range of resources to support us as we defrag, deprogram, and sort of go from pain as a paradigm to more of pleasure and desire as a paradigm. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, Jan?
The one thing that I really have realized over all of this is that as a human, I'm not just Jan. I'm connected to everything and everybody. I don't know why I just had this thought as you were talking then. I'm connected to the trees. I'm connected to the earth. I'm not just, I don't know. I felt like I was such an amazing human that we almost have to disconnect to be that amazing human. But no, that is so not what is good for humans, for me, definitely. And I think the Rocksteady program very gradually made me realize that I'm we are one big connection. You and I are connected, Joey. Me and the cat are connected. I'm connected to everything, but that's what makes us such a rich, wonderful community. But when you're so disconnected, you don't get that. And I think neurologically, that helped me.
I'm going to try and put it in words that might help some of the listeners. And you can build on this, because what you're saying is so beautiful. And I feel it's tapping into the spiritual side of the work we're doing.
Yeah.
When we're in fear, and what tends to happen physically is we contract and close. There's muscles contracting, the body physically closes down, and we don't necessarily have the space or availability to connect with people. We can get things done. We can complete a conversation. We can have an agenda. But there'll often be a bit of competition or jealousy or trying to prove something or trying to be someone. There'll be shoulds in there, expectations. But when we drop into a different part of the brain, which is more of our loving kindness, shared humanity, sense of compassion and dignity and integrity, and we're really whole in our individuality and our self, and we're full of who we are in ourselves, but we're also porous. It's like the energetic boundaries around us have an ingoing and outgoing, where we're actually able to energetically receive people and stand with our chin up and our chest open, and we can just be there in silence and eye contact and feel and connect and really sense where they are and care about where they are. And that's one of the big aha moments for me as I explore this connection and porousness and openness in a really safe and healthy way without losing any part of me. Is the question comes up for me, it's like, how can I connect to this person better? How can I nurture our connection? And I might actually openly say to people, like, how is this feeling for you? I'll check in. Whereas the old Joey, who was running on fear and doing and survival, and it's super common, all this multitasking, and I'm disconnected because I'm doing so much and I don't have time to stop and pause and check and connect and feel in. I feel like it's that awareness of how I am and being curious about, well, how are you? And it's almost it's a genuine curiosity, because I'm not even trying to fix anything. It's like, I'm just curious. Like, how are you feeling in this moment? It's nice to have that shared connection. And as you've said, we could do that with trees, with nature, with the ocean, with the moon, with the wider cosmos, with all the mystery of things we don't understand. But there's somehow this invisible sense of interconnectedness and oneness, which I absolutely feel with you. And perhaps it goes beyond explanation or beyond my capacity to put words to it. But did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I'm just going to say, I can sense with people now, almost everybody, how there's a sense of how they're feeling. With my clients, because I'm quite close contact with people, and they chat to me, and I there's something I can just feel their almost disconnectedness sometimes. And then I try, then I say to them, well, you're the only person that can fix you, really. That I'm feeling lots of different things. I feel more now than I ever have done.
Yeah.
I feel the universe. I feel the pain, the pleasure, the whole. I am definitely connected to that part of myself, 100%.
And what I want to say to those listeners who might be like, oh my God, that sounds overwhelming, I can't handle it. The difference is we can handle it now, because our boundaries are so much stronger. We're so solid in who we are and the space we occupy. And we have that integrity of understanding our alignment and what really matters to us, that there's an unflappability, or we're unwavering or less wavering in the big bad world. So as we're out experiencing the pleasures and pains of the world, we don't have to clamp down and say, no, I don't have time for that, I can't handle that. If we do, it happens less often, and we can pick ourselves back up, soften and reopen. These are the skills of, in window of tolerance language, being able to experience the red zone of fight, flight, freeze and unavailability, and really melt that and soften and open back up to experience the world again safely. We don't lose a sense of who we are or our strength and center in the crazy chaos of the world. These are fabulous skills for parenting, I tell you, but also for politics and for all of the kind of crazy fear-mongering paradigms and conversations and ideas that are floating around the world. And we're having to navigate that. Coming back to this connectedness and interconnectedness and disconnectedness, we're most vulnerable actually when we're disconnected, because that's when the fear gets in, we lose who we are, our nervous system dysregulates and symptoms escalate. So for those of you listening, it matters, and it's actually less overwhelming in my experience, but you speak to this as well, Jen. It's less overwhelming to have the capacity to hold our center, soften and open up when we're ready.
Yeah.
Allow in this sense of shared humanity and feel the full spectrum, the uglies, the neutrals, the lights, the beauty, to have space for all of that without judgment, without hooks, without attachment, with a pure curiosity of presence. You remember back to being really overwhelmed?
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, even now, if I find I'm slightly overwhelmed, because I'm a very sensitive person, and I realise that being sensitive is an absolute bonus. It's just amazing. And so the overwhelmed for me, and the sensitive part was a bit of a double whammy. So I with the program again, I was brave enough to get rid of anything I didn't want, any people around me that weren't good for my in my space.
It's like you had to do a cleanse. You had to
I did.
You had to clean your exterior world physically
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
relationally. And then I'm guessing that had an impact on how you cleansed your interior world and how you felt,
100%.
because you were
Yeah.
clearing any of the toxic conversations or judgments that weren't serving you. So there's less clutter. And with time and with that space and clarity, which you're right, is a very rock steady process. And what I find when I'm really at my best is there's just less thoughts, there's less clutter. And my emotions come and go with clarity. I'm not sort of confused about what's what, who's who, where am I, is that mine, is it theirs? It's just clear, it's simple, and I can process things one at a time, because it's not this overwhelming barrage of everything and everyone. So having really clear containers and boundaries, I think, is part of that cleansing process you were sort of referring back to.
Yeah, 100%. My mind, there's a little thing you do. There's one of your on your program. See, I don't actually do the program now because I don't need. I am hot. I feel that it's worked for me. It's 100% worked. But there's part on there that I remember where you try and get your mind to not think about anything. I can't remember what you call that on there. It's one of your programs. But I do that all the time now. I don't overthink. I don't. See, that was my problem as well, being too much in here, overthinking everything, imagining my amazing imagination. And I've got that completely. I don't overthink. I don't overstimulate this with anything that I don't need. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. I want to say I don't worry about anything, Joey, but I do. No, I don't actually. Actually, I don't. Because I don't overthink it. If there's a problem, I deal with it and it's gone.
You address it.
And then I think, well, how do I want to feel right now?
Yeah. My way of describing Rocksteady as a concept at the minute is acceptance of reality with agency and grace, that we can meet reality as it is, have choice and power, and also a surrender. That's the grace that we can. And I think that's also what we said about let go of control when we truly can't control, but control what we can. And acceptance of reality means I'm not going to pretend it should be this way or get disappointed that it should be that way, or I'm not going to compare it to yesterday or last week or last year. I'm just going to see today as it is. I'm going to meet today. I feel this, okay? I'm sensing this, okay? I'm hearing this, okay? What am I going to do about it? Where is my power in all of this right now? Not how I think it should be or could be, because that's the wastic worry, the toxic waste and worry. Being truly present and accepting is very powerful, and adding in the agency, because a lot of mindfulness practices will bring us to put it in a cloud, let it float away, but then what? There has to be a then what attitude, which is really what we hone all our skills through module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, takes us to a place of having that powerful choice point where it becomes a way of life. This is my spectrum of internal mindful gauges. These are my inner landmarks. This is what's going on in the outer world. This is reality. How do I choose wisely? Because I've got all the clarity there, and it comes with a lot of practice. Do you want to share actually maybe a typical practice on any given day once you maybe were more in the thick of the program? And
tapping for me was massive, and it still is actually. If ever I've got something that I feel a bit stuck, excuse me, tapping and journaling. Oh my goodness, I don't know how many journals I've got now. It must be hundreds. So writing it down and tapping it out was a huge, it was a daily occurrence.
Yeah.
And again, that's what I learned from that. I love it. And it clears. Now I use it. If I'm a little bit stuck, I tap away and I speak it all out. It took me quite a while to learn the tapping method, really, for me. Now the answers just come through. I answer my own question through tapping completely.
Oh yeah, it does take time. A lot of people want a script or want everything to be positive or negative, and actually it's just it's a stream of consciousness. It's a way of getting to know what's inside of us and hearing it. It's very powerful, very powerful. But it's not for everyone, and that's okay. And tapping's not the be all and end all, but for some people it's a really useful educational tool for self-study. That's what I like about it. It helps us understand what's going on inside of us. It doesn't necessarily fix us or tell us what to do, but some huge insights can come, because I think it helps us clear the clutter and, again, get closer and closer to that clarity.
Yeah.
Any passing words you want to share, Jan, to anyone listening who might be in a dark place at this moment or questioning themselves, not sure they can heal? You can remember back to Jan 2 years ago. What words of wisdom would you offer yourself, perhaps, back in that place?
Be patient.
Yeah.
Trust yourself and your body.
Oh, yeah.
100% trust and patience. And you can do it. And to keep going. And just be kind to yourself. That was another thing that I'm always kind to myself now, always. And enjoy life. And I just enjoy every single moment now. It's just, and the other one, I'm so full of gratitude. Again, I do a gratitude diary. So I found that very, very, very positive thing to do for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but patience and trust your body. And you've got this.
It's hard to believe that all the time, but I think we make those little accumulative moments where more and more we realize, oh, okay, I made a good decision there. I'm starting to get the hang of this. And you didn't mention it, but I'm going to throw it out there because I feel it could be central, almost like a fish swimming in water forgets that water is even a thing. Body scanning. Did body scans become a feature that helped you drop into your body and actually learn to feel again? Because that's part of the disconnect. We don't want to feel, so we're not even available to feel our own body, and we essentially escape and run away from what we're feeling. And a huge part of this process before tapping and journaling could be actually learning to feel again.
Body scanning was massive for me. Actually, it still is, but I didn't mention it because it's so automatic. I do it all the time and without even thinking.
And without that capacity to feel all of it, including symptomatology, sensations, darkness, difficult things, it's also hard to feel that yummy, juicy, joyful sensory input that you were talking about, of like, oh, I'm excited on this call and I'm feeling it, and I'm feeling other people and I'm feeling the world because I'm actually able to embody my present experience again. I don't have to shut down. And that is so, so rich. I just find that to be one of the biggest gifts, and the gift that keeps on giving, and we refine and fine tune it, I think, for life.
And I just want to say, I remember saying, I just want the old Jan back. But actually, do you know what? I love the new improved Jan. She's so much nicer, so much more connected, 100%.
Oh, that's such a nice note to finish on. I think a lot of people in this community who end up in the Rocksteady community will start by thinking, I just want to be who I was. I miss that person. You know, these symptoms have ruined my life. I don't, you know, I feel like I can't concentrate. Relationships breaking down. I can't hold a job. You know, there'll be this huge list of things that they don't like about themselves right now with symptoms. And they want to be that person over there that they were, or maybe 10 years ago, whatever. I want to plant the idea, if you relate to that, that what if the new you you're going to rebuild through this process is brighter, is taller, is softer, is more loving, is more open, is more courageous, is more adventurous, is really a totally different version of you that you didn't know was possible. Imagine opening up the conversation of building the new version of you that you craft and cultivate. That is the Rocksteady invitation.
Yeah, 100%.
So I really want to come back to the science that where we put our energy and attention, our brain physically changes. We can see that in an MRI. Where we put our intention and attention changes our brain chemistry and neural cocktails. This is really coming back to science, and we're learning to understand more of the mental, emotional, spiritual parts of healing from a neuroscience perspective. It's very exciting. And nothing short of life-changing.
100%. I can't agree more, Joey.
Thanks so much for sharing your story, Jan. It's been such a pleasure to watch you find yourself.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I thank you. Can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you for being part of the community, because if I was on my own, none of this would be happening. So every person in this community really makes Rocksteady what it is, and it's a welcoming place of belonging. I'm Joey Remenyi from seekingbalance.com.au. If you're interested in learning more about yourself and your neurons and building a new normal, if you're living with elusive and difficult symptoms such as vertigo, dizziness, or tinnitus, although not really limited to that, there's a lot of different diagnoses and difficult conditions going on in the Rocksteady community. You belong with us. It's a great educational space. Visit my website, seekingbalance.com.au, and get in touch if you're interested. Jan, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I can feel your presence and your excitement, and honestly, they are some of the qualities that people are so desperately yearning for. And it's so beautiful to see that you've arrived and you've cultivated that for yourself.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks again. So bye for now.